got the skepticism breaking it down. He's got the answers that are waiting to be found. We mix it all up in a quantum machine, the craziest duo that you've ever seen. Oh, it's the skeptic and the disciple. Yeah, we keep it moving, yeah, we keep it vital. Faith and logic and funny business. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to The Skeptic and the Disciple. I'm Mike Littman, the Quantum Disciple, and this is my partner in crime, Megan.
Hey everyone, partner in crime.
So today we're going to kind of pick up a little bit where we left off last week with a little bit of a different kind of twist on it. You know, we're still talking about kind of greed, taking your eyes off the ball, forgetting that we actually need to rely on God for things. When we think we can do too many things ourselves, all of a sudden we believe that our need for God is less and less and less until we've replaced God with something else. So last week we talked about replacing God with money, and that's something that we all struggle with. You know, regardless of the amount of money you make, the amount of money you've had to deal with, you know, people struggle with greed around money, and it typically doesn't stop at, oh, I just need enough to live, because there's never gonna be enough. If you're poor and you make some money, you want more money. If you're rich and you make a lot of money, you want even more money. There's no stopping the greed for money, even though you might have enough to survive or to live or whatever it is. We're innately greedy people because we're sinful. This comes back from original sin, and it's easy to say we can't help it, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to work on it. But part of the idea of not being able to, maybe it's not that we can't help it, but we can't fix it on our own. We need support, and that comes from God, but it also comes from the people around us, because I think God puts people in our lives to help us navigate this world, just for the listeners and the watchers out there. I mean, just consider the couple of people that are in your lives that you can turn to, whether it's a best friend, a parent, even just somebody that you've just known for years who has gone through some stuff. So you just feel like a bond with those people, and you can, they're always a sounding board for stuff.
Are you describing us?
I was actually describing the opposite of us.
Ouch.
Ooh, yeah, I bet you that stung.
You're lucky you're not near me. This is hot coffee.
It is hot coffee. I have hot coffee too, but you're right. I mean, because it is. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time, but during that period of time, we've gone through seasons of our lives that have been rough. I mean, I know you are of the opinion that every season of your life has been rough. But there's been good times in there. You take those little vacations from the dumpster fire, and there's some good times.
There's a couple little sprinkles.
But like we even talked about last week, when you look at, let's say, the other side, you look at somebody that you think has it all together, everything's going great, they have enough of this and enough of that. Oh, there's still complications with life. I know we've shared, 3.5 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. No amount of money fixes that. If you want to take it even away from me, go back to like Steve Jobs, the Apple guy. This guy had billions of dollars, but couldn't save his life. He had pancreatic cancer, lived longer than maybe would have otherwise. I'm sure he had the best medical treatment and all that stuff, but money doesn't save. Jesus saves. Oh, I like that. I just came up with that. We should tagline that. Money doesn't save. Jesus
I
feel like somebody's had to have said that before. This doesn't feel original.
Down anyways.
It's like one of those Trump things where we've invented something that was already invented. I like to call it groceries. Man. So anyways, just think through your lives, that we have people that, we look up to and things like that. But it's easy for us to try to replace God with things, it's money, it's comfort. We talked last week about what does success look like? And most of us go to the idea of things for fulfilling us for success. I think you said a house.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing. Now, I get it. There are certain things you want to have a roof over your head. You want to have a sense of safety and things like these aren't unreasonable things to say. But I mean, we can go beyond that and say we tend to think of our measurement of success by the number of things we've acquired or the things that we want that we can actually get. And that kind of takes our eye off of other things. Well, so I wanted to talk about, I think the way a lot of these shows go is we kind of start with like what's happening in our own lives. And that's what you and I have been doing. And so, just in this last week, I've had a situation pop up. Last week I mentioned a previous situation that had popped up, but I had somebody who I've kind of gotten close with, taking them under my wing, having them do a lot of things for them, trying to see the best in them, stuff like that. This was a person who really didn't have a father figure in their lives. Grew up tough life. And this kind of relates to you, Megan. I mean, you grew up, your parents weren't around, and in many ways you define yourself by that. You've heard me kind of tell you, I mean, yes, that's part of your story.
Right.
I mean, that's never going to change. It is part of your story, but when you let it define you, you never escape the past. So these are easy things to hang on to for forever because these are scars. Even before we came on the air today, we were, without getting into details, obviously, we were talking about scars that we have from our past surgeries and things like that. And these are things that are almost like trophies or something that you say, look, this is what I've been through. This is what I've survived. Oh, but some scars we don't see. Some scars are on the inside. They're in our hearts. They're in our minds. And it's hard to break free of those things and not define ourselves by those things.
If only I could let my internal scars have the same perspective that I do on my physical scars, then I'd be set. Because like I said, my scars, they just show my fight. Like I have no issue. I like my scars. Like they're good. Fine. Whatever. They show my fight. If only I could feel that way inside, then that would be a huge difference.
Right. Like it's easier if they're on the outside where it's not up to you. Well, it's not up to you whether people see these scars. I mean, it's up to you a little bit.
Right.
But it's not, these are external things. We can't hide behind them.
Right.
We could try to cover scars up. We could try to put makeup over, whatever, stuff like that. But you still can't, they're still there. And they're visible to other people. But when they're on the inside, we've gotten so good at protecting ourselves against these scars or against these things that it becomes part of our personality.
Absolutely.
You have people who kind of build this personality or build this, let's say they build this lie around them that protects them against where they've been hurt. I mean, we have our own greed and our own sinfulness. So, I mean, it's not always to protect yourself for where it's been hurt. It might also be like, oh, I want people to see me like this. Therefore, I'm going to behave like that, whether it's based on reality or not. So I think it's something
I wish I could choose how to behave. I'm just who I am, whether I want to try to or not.
But you still do adjust depending on who your company is.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. But it is tough. We could try to be strong. We can try to say, oh, nothing bothers me. Nothing, nothing does this, that, or the next
Every
thing.
time I do that, you immediately know. And you're like, yeah, we're not filming today.
Well, it's because we have fans who come here just for you. And I can't have you other than your best.
You're not wrong.
I can show up at 50%. Nobody's going to notice.
That's because guys you don't have to do your hair, your makeup, nothing. You wear the same outfit every time. Like, it's easy. You just hop on.
Because I already look amazing. I mean, you can't improve this.
See, I don't have that same luxury. I have to put work into it.
Or do you say you don't have that ability to lie to yourself and believe it? It's like, okay, Littman says this stuff all the time. And frankly, I'm pretty sure he believes. I do.
You should.
No. See, that's the problem. It gets reinforced. I can't help it.
Exactly.
So anyways, we live with our internal and our external scars, and external scars are easier to hide. Well, are harder to hide. Internal scars, we get good at hiding them. Mm-hmm. Consider, you just turned obviously 21, 22. You're still young. You're trying to pretend you're 22 still. Oh, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah,
I get it.
with the Army.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just turned 22 for the umpteenth time. And um, you know, but you've already had years and years and years of practice hiding those scars,
Right.
those internal scars, but those scars still haunt you.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe haunt's not the right word, but they're with you all the time. You're
Mhm.
constantly having to play defense against those scars because you've identified with them. And I think everybody struggles with that kind of stuff at some level. Oh, it's easy. Last year, I had a whole bunch of back surgeries. I've had a bad back for years. And it's like, oh, my back's killing me. It's so bad. It's the worst thing ever. You couldn't, you don't want to have to deal with that. But we don't know what other people's pain is like, right? I mean, yeah, my back was bad, but I mean, it was tolerable to a point. I got used to dealing with the pain, but everybody's got something. Like I'll tell you what, like I think it was our last trip. I was messing with some hangnail on my finger or
Ow.
something like that. And so I pulled it out and I don't know what went down, but it got kind of infected. I'll tell you what, that hurt way worse than my back ever hurt. It's like the
Those are
stupidest
bad.
things. The stupidest things hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So we really don't know. It's easy to feel sorry for ourselves and then think, oh, other people don't have to deal with this, but everybody's got their thing.
Right.
So anyways, this this person had gotten close to me, and I was mentoring them, and they wanted to become me. They modeled themselves after me, my personality, and I have kind of a rough personality. One of my my mentors from several years ago, who might even be a viewer here, but he's retired now, but he was my boss's boss when he last finished.
Okay.
He was the president of the university when he retired. But when I first got there, he was like a VP of academics. So he was the top academic officer. One thing he said to me, and it was funny when he said it, but it's also stuck with me. He said, I said something, about, my personality or whatever. And he said that I was an acquired taste.
You are.
I don't like what you talk about whiskey. Yeah, you get used to it. And I think there's truth to that, because when people get to know me, I think they start getting to see my heart and stuff like that, that I'm not just this, this asshole or whatever. But, if you just met me for the first time, you may be like, who is this guy? I'm like a walking around cartoon character. People complain about your your AI artwork and stuff, where, hey, that's more realistic than people know.
Right. You're literally wearing my artwork every day.
Yeah.
I mean, every shirt has a image of your own face on it. Like, I don't think I've made one shirt. Actually, I think there's only one, and I think that was the Blade one that didn't have you on it.
And I
Look
haven't
at
worn it
that.
once. I haven't worn it
Wow.
once.
Have you even worn any of the new order? There was like 42,
Oh yeah.
43 shirts
It's
in
like,
there.
it's out of sight, out of mind for like taking a picture of it. I've worn most of them. I've worn all the 10 commandments, I'm sure. I've definitely worked through some of the plagues. So yeah, I mean, I've worn many of them. At least
you
once.
just tell me nothing about them. I get all
Because
excited
it's
making them, and then
but it's just the shirt I put on that day.
You literally
put-
probably have 60 shirts in your closet that I made, at least.
I think it's over 70 actually, but yeah.
Probably.
And Tabby, as Tabby does, is like organize them. Sorted them by here's this is Old Testament. It's like I got the whole Bible hanging in my closet.
We even have one with Tabby on it in the Back to the
like
Future. She doesn't?
She doesn't like any of them with her on it.
That was your fault.
You're right. It was my fault. And it started even before that. If you remember, way before we were making these, remember the Ninja Turtle ones we were making?
Yeah,
for the cruise ships, and you made the girl Ninja Turtle in the bikini.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have her on it, just she had a girl Ninja Turtle for her Hawaiian shirt that we were going to take on cruise ships. Well, yeah, she didn't wear that. That was I ended up giving it away.
Did you?
I gave it
to me.
Wouldn't it have been too small for you?
I don't remember what size it was.
I
don't even own a Hawaiian shirt.
Well, I'm guessing a medium, maybe.
Well, I'm climbing down, so maybe it would.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
Did you just call me fat?
Well, I think I may be called Tabby more petite than you fat, because I don't think you're fat.
No, not anymore.
Well, I mean, you were maybe, what do they say?
There you go.
But
The
Tabby is
nice
more
way of
petite.
fat.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tabby's petite, so she had a small shirt. But funny enough, I gave it to an Indian dude. Fit him great. I have a picture of it.
I was gonna that actually probably works great for a dude too, because I'm sure dudes like Ninja
I
Turtles
don't
and
know if he's
bikinis.
worn it since then, but I have a picture of him putting it on where we were.
That is hilarious.
Oh, and actually, even, I'm glad that that's a good segue, because the person I gave that shirt to, I had similar issues with, as I have the other person that I've dealt with this week. In my career, as a college professor, I'm open to a lot of mentorships with my students, and I'm a computer science professor, and I'd like to think I'm pretty good at what I do, not the teaching part only, but I mean, technically, one of my God-given gifts has just been computer science. So students, I think, look up to me for my knowledge, but I'm not getting any younger. So, one of my jobs that I believe God gave me with the gift of teaching is trying to get all this crap that's stuck in my head, my bald head, and getting it out to young people.
That's
Because
why you don't have hair, because it doesn't need a filter.
yeah. I mean, realistically, I've probably forgotten more than a lot of people have learned. You talk about your scars. I mean, I was diagnosed with Asperger's. They call it stage level 1 autism or whatever now, because I guess that Dr. Asperger guy was a Nazi or something. I don't know. But they
Oh.
called it Asperger's when I was a kid. My mom just, back then, my mom takes me into the doctor, just says, "What's wrong with them?" I was this weird kid.
That's all that was
wasn't
wrong
like,
with you, is you were weird?
well, it wasn't that I was nonverbal, but I didn't make great eye contact with people, and I was just kind of, I was awkward. And I was into things I started programming when I was 9. My dad was a dentist, and so this was pretty early on in personal computers, and being a dentist, doctors started getting computers into their businesses. So he got that, and and back then, I mean, it was like, I think that first computer was probably like $10,000 to $15,000, and you have to consider that this is in the 80s.
Right.
So that's a lot of money back then. So it's, this is like a major investment that doctors would make, just like my dad had like x-ray machines in the office
Right.
for doing the panoramic stuff, whatever. These are investments in the business. Well, so he brings this computer home. Nobody had computers, and I'm this little kid. So of course I take the whole thing apart. My dad, I should have died that day. He was so
Yeah.
mad, but I got it back together.
Working order?
Luckily, I then got my own computer shortly after that, because he didn't
Yeah,
want,
leave mine
he didn't want me
alone.
touching that one anymore. But he saw my interest in that stuff, and I was very fortunate. We talked about, you lost your parents young. Well, I was very fortunate that I had good parents. I had parents that were around, and I had parents who made a good living, but also didn't spoil us. It was
And
a
they're both
conversation
still around, right?
Yeah, they're on a world cruise right now, and I talked to my mom to make sure my dad's behaving, because my dad's a problem at dinner. He's a very
Oh.
picky eater. They bring somebody over to do his menu every night, so he can eat stuff that won't make him sick, and he's never happy. And it could be like he wants tomatoes sliced. They bring him diced tomatoes. He loses it.
Oh my gosh.
In fact, one year for his birthday, my wife and I were gonna make him little flashcards, because he would be upset that they didn't understand what like sliced versus diced or wedged meant, stupid things like
Yeah.
that. So we thought we'd give him flashcards,
Oh
because
my
on
gosh.
cruises often you're dealing with international folks. Americans don't have the work ethic to work the hours that they need on cruise ships, and Americans demand more money, which also is going to be interestingly compared to what we're talking about today. But, an American thinks they're worth more per hour than they probably are, and they're not willing to work 14-hour days.
Right.
But these cruise ship folks, well, they do. They work their butts off. And yeah, I mean, so sometimes it's frustrating. Like, oh, how did this person forget this? Are you stupid? You hear these old people, yelling at the person who messed up their coffee or whatever. Yeah, you expect, you're paying money for these things and stuff like that. You expect all the perks, but I mean, this person might be running on 3 hours of sleep. And, sometimes it's hard to think about the other people because we're so focused on what we want and what we deserve and all these things. And, often later you feel bad about it or something. So repentance is an important part of that. But I couldn't make it working on a cruise ship. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I spent a lot of time sitting at the bar with my laptop on the cruise ships while Tabby's sleeping on her balcony back in the room. And you get to know these bartenders and stuff like that. And the bartender role is a little bit more of an elevated role on the cruise ships. Like, it's not where you start. So a lot of times you talk to the bartenders and they've been with the cruise line for like 7 and like 20 years.
Oh, wow.
These are long-term people, and, they make a good living. They get to travel the world. Almost every single dollar that they get paid, people might think they don't get paid that well. Well, maybe when you think about the salary, you get to consider they're not paying for housing, they're not paying for electricity, they're not paying for food. All these things are just paid to them.
You know what
and
would
they can
suck though? You're on a cruise ship all the time and you never actually get to get off the ship and see these places.
But you do just, and so there's like a rotating schedule of like, so they'll talk to me. They said, oh yeah, I get to get off tomorrow. But you keep in mind, they're coming back to these same destinations during a season, either every week or every other week. So
Right.
in the Caribbean, a lot of times, like 1 week, the ship goes to the Eastern Caribbean and the next week it goes to the Western Caribbean. It just keeps
Oh,
going back and forth.
darn. I have to go to the Caribbean every week.
Oh, no, I get it. And like Tabby and I, we don't even get off the ship ourselves. But the point I'm making is you got to consider that this bartender has been to this port 100 times.
Right. So it's probably not as exciting.
Right. It's like us, if we drove through Sheboygan, we might not feel like we have to pull over and check it out.
I don't think I've ever had that want.
Well, you pass Acuity with the giant flag, and that's
Yeah. I have.
inside that building. Acuity has a working Ferris wheel, and they have rock climbing walls. It's like the Google of the Midwest, and it's an insurance company, so it's a pretty
That is crazy.
cool. Some of our best students go up there and work. Well, anyways, I was kind of talking about like, mentoring, mentor. I have mentors in my life, and I try to be a mentor to some of these people, and they end up starting to look up to you, but sometimes it gets to be more than that, where they try to mimic you. They try to be you. They look at the things you're good at and they decide, oh, I want to be good at those things. But what's even more, I don't know, what's frustrating for me when I see that is there's so many things they're good at
Right.
that I'm not good at. I could never be as good as them at those things.
And they're probably not as good as you are on the things that they're trying to be.
Well, I mean, yeah. So it's going to be fairly rare, probably, for us to have a computer science student who's going to have the skills that I have in computer science. But I've been doing this for a few minutes. That doesn't mean they never will.
There's no such thing as a few minutes in your vocabulary.
Well, you get what I mean. Like, I mean, so I'm 48. So let's say I've been doing computer science stuff for nearly 40 years.
I was making a joke because you always go over our time.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, but I mean, I think it's actually important because not only have I been doing it for 40 years, I also had the advantage of growing up during a very specific time period that I think I maybe mentioned in one of our other videos that I saw a documentary on. People who were born, I think it's between like 1976 and 1985, I think it was, is we grew up during a time period where we had the old technology, but also got the new technology when we were young enough to be interested in it.
Right.
I had corded phones for
Yeah.
most of my childhood. I remember the first wireless phones with the giant antennas, answering machines, when you had physical answering machines.
The VHS
telephone books.
rewinder when you had to stick it in the thing and
Oh, yeah. And then you got penalized when you took it back to Blockbuster. You didn't have it rewound.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. So my age group was alive during that time where we had to do a lot of critical thinking because we didn't have so much automation in the world. It wasn't that we were smarter than the young people are today. It's just we were forced to solve certain problems. Similarly, if you have grandparents or something who, I guess maybe now would it be great grandparents at this point, who lived through the Depression, where they were waiting in line for bread and stuff like that. I mean, that's something that's hard for us to imagine in today's world, but those people went through that. Well, my age group had this advantage.
We went through a toilet paper shortage.
That's true. With COVID. That is hilarious, actually. You'd be in the grocery store and they just got their delivery and it's like yes, it's like you're like found gold.
Right. People were trampling each other. It was nuts.
That's why I'm pro bidet, but that's probably another podcast. But in any case, what was I talking about? I was talking about mentoring. What topic did you kick me off? I lost my train of thought. I'm sure it was going to be amazing, though.
Old and...
Right, the time period. So there's a good book that I should get you that one, too. I got you reading too many book series. You're still on Game of Life. I bought you the first book of Left Behind. But this is more of an educational thing. And, maybe we should even put some links up to a couple of these things. So they have a couple of books. One, which is not the one I was going to bring up, but it's called I'm Too I'm Too Dumb to Be an Atheist or something along those lines, or I'm Not Smart Enough to Be an Atheist, I think is what it was. And we'll put a link up at some point. But the book I was actually talking about is this book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And he has a couple of different books. Another one's called Blink that's kind of related to this. And Outliers kind of focuses on this idea of kind of right time, right place. So for example, I'm sure I've told you these before, but obviously you're ditzy enough. You probably have forgotten, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
So here's one of the things from the book. We'll go through a couple of them. So NHL, hockey, professional hockey. Are you an NHL fan? I mean, you live pretty far up north. Is it required?
No. So I've actually only seen one hockey game in Milwaukee, but back when I lived in New Mexico, they had a CHL team and I was in high school at the time and my best friend's dad had glass season tickets. So we were at every single hockey game. I've been a sumo wrestler on the ice. I've driven a toilet around the ice. I have that personality that I would literally look for whoever was in charge of the intermission. And at the beginning of the show, me and my friend would walk around. We'd find this person and find a way to be on the ice for that. So it was a lot of fun. I loved hockey.
Well, so would it surprise you to know that about 80% of the professional hockey players in the NHL are from Canada?
No, not at all.
Okay, not shocking.
And they probably don't have teeth either.
About 80% of those people were born in the first 3 months of the year. So 80% of the Canadians who play professional hockey were born in the first 3 months of the year, and 80% of professional hockey players are from Canada. Why do you think that is?
Their parents were all bored at the same time?
Okay. That's a little twist on what I usually get. Some people will say, you were implying a celebratory situation. So some people will say something like, oh, were they celebrating the Stanley Cup victory or something like that? Yep. 9 months later.
Yep.
It has to do. So you've dealt with this, when you've had to babysit kids, there's a pretty substantial difference in like the hand-eye coordination between like a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Or an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. So the age cutoff for junior hockey was such that the kids born in the first 3 months of the year were always the oldest kids in the league. So they had better hand-eye coordination. They got more ice time. They got more better coaching. They were on the traveling team. So just because of when they were born, the months of the year they were born, they got these advantages from no effort of their own. That gave them the ability to, it's not like you can't be a professional hockey player otherwise, but you had an oomph, a boost.
Right.
Another good one, and this one is the one I like, and I won't do another one after this, but another good one is, okay, so we're going to take, I like this one because it makes you feel racist.
Oh,
that should be like the title of the show. Like, does this make you feel racist?
God, that topic would go all over the place.
Probably be no less popular than some of the other things, given some of the hate stuff we get. So we're going to put 5 high school kids, 5 Americans who are in high school in one room. We're going to put 5 Chinese students who are in high school in another room. We're going to give them 7 numbers, and they have 30 seconds to memorize those numbers. 20% of the Americans are able to do it. 100% of the Chinese kids can do it. Why?
I don't know. Maybe for the
'Cause
same
you don't want to
reason that
sound racist.
I mean, the stereotype that they're smarter. I mean, you see that in the medical field a lot.
So you felt racist. I get it.
Yeah. There you go.
So
Thanks.
some things I get is like, oh, well, maybe their parents are stricter, made them stay in and do homework or study or whatever. Or, oh, they're just better at math. They'll say something like the Asian kids are better at math or something. The human brain is on about a 2-second loop. So anything we can fit in our mind within 2 seconds, a 2-second period, we have a pretty good chance of remembering.
Okay.
The Chinese language, Mandarin, is more efficient when saying numbers than the English language.
Oh.
They can say all 7 numbers in their head in less than 2 seconds using Chinese. They can't say all 7 in their head using English.
I want to hear this now. Do it.
Well, do which thing?
I want to hear it in Chinese.
Well, I don't know if I know the Japanese number system. I don't know. I just know that the punchline to this is that the Chinese language. I have a Chinese buddy. We could phone a friend, tell him to rattle off 7 random numbers.
Yes, please. Today's caller.
But in any case, it's the efficiency of their language. Some languages are just more efficient at certain things, and it just happens to be like, and it's the way they think of numbers. So it's not so much just the words. Like 22 is 2 10 2. 2 10s and a 2. 22.
Where'd you go?
And then they say it with their in their language, which is going to be even more efficient. Oh, did we lose Megan?
No, you lost you.
Oh, well, I'm still moving on my screen, so this must just be I think everything's fine. They record locally on a computer.
Yeah, it was just a quick second.
Yeah. So, anyways, this book from Malcolm Gladwell, it's called Outliers, and the other book is Blink. It just makes you. I find it very entertaining because it makes you think about things that you have heard before, but never really considered some of the things that actually are happening under the hood that drive some of these things. We create, we create stereotypes or narratives around things that we think we know stuff about. Even, in today's world with the wars and stuff like that, sure, you have all these, I'm sure everybody in the world or a large portion of the world that has access to the news has an opinion on this whole thing. But how many of us are really qualified to really understand the bigger thing that's going on here? We don't really know the backstory of what's being talked about in back rooms in Iran or in the United States or wherever. We have speculations. We attach things to certain people. I guess I would say killing people is usually a bad idea. But the world's a pretty complicated place. But the point is, we all have opinions about things, and so often we know nothing about what we're talking about. The person I was meeting with this morning, one of my mentees was, we were, talking about it. He's graduating as one of our top students, has a good job he's got lined up, but, he's just never had good luck with girls. So, I had I had 5 relationships. They've all ended badly. So he's just decided these are not worth my time. So, he's 5 minutes old, knows nothing about the real world or life outside of high school and the new high school, which is college. Yet he's got he's got it all figured out moving forward. I thought the same thing when I was his age, but he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Right.
And we're all that way. But we all have an opinion. We all think we're so smart and we got it all figured out that this is what they're doing because, they want to protect their oil or, we want the nuclear dust or whatever Trump's calling it this week, But the point is things are complicated. We could sit here and think our politicians are buffoons or whatever. We can have opinions about how people carry themselves, just like you have a buddy who you think is an idiot or something. But life's complicated. The problems, these geopolitical things are complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces with that, and we're just not qualified to have an opinion. And frankly, it would never be a job I'd want.
Mm-mm.
because you feel like you walk out of any sort of thing, somebody gets hurt.
Right.
And I don't think any of us want to walk into any meeting and leave the meeting knowing that someone was hurt by decisions made in that meeting. A
Absolutely.
person might, maybe we're firing somebody. If I'm trying to swing this back to my other thing, maybe we're firing someone and
I was
let's
gonna
say
say
they
you only
deserve it.
have 20 minutes. You're gonna have to
Oh, it's
circle back around.
no, it's fine. But we haven't really left the topic. This has been good because you've done your job because you've driven this into examples of the same thing. So you have an employee and the employee wanted a leadership role. So you gave them a leadership role because you saw potential in them to be a leader. But what they did is they mimicked the way they saw another leader lead. Now, and I can connect this to like teaching. When I first started teaching 26 years ago, I couldn't fill, and this is related to the time thing, I couldn't fill a 50-minute period.
Which
I'd
is
come
crazy to
in.
me.
Yeah, I came in, I had all my notes written down. I was over prepared. And people probably can relate to that. You've written a speech or something, you've practiced it, and all of a sudden, speech is supposed to go for 20 minutes. You come in and 4 minutes and 18 seconds later, you're saying, any
Mhm.
questions? It's like
Now
you
what?
knew what you were trying to do, but you just kind of blurted it all out super quickly because you over prepared for it. Well, I had all these notes written down and I basically just wrote them on the chalkboard verbatim. That's not the way to teach someone. Teaching has to be more of a conversation thing. Over time, what I figured out was what's my style, because what I was doing is I was mimicking the teachers I had seen. And maybe that style worked for them, but it didn't work for me. So there isn't like a single correct way to teach. It's a collaboration between the teacher, the students, and the style that the teacher can best execute. Now, my teaching style is not for everyone. A lot of students love my classes. A lot of students hate my classes. I teach hard classes to begin with. I think I try to make them fun and stuff like that. But still, I'm, like were we talking about that on camera or not, that I'm an acquired taste?
Yep.
I had a mentor years ago who, said that to me, and I found that funny, and I brought it up zillions of times over the years because it's true. I mean,
I know I am too. It's like you either love me or hate me. There's no in between. But that
yeah,
has
but you're weirder from the perspective that I'm not sure you ever actually acquire a taste for it.
you just
It's
put
just
up
what
with
they
it.
keep serving.
Yeah. You just put up with it. Yep.
It's like they just keep bringing me tequila. I don't even like this stuff. So anyways, there's different ways of teaching, just like there's different ways of leading. And what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another person because, you got to play to your strengths and you got to hide your weaknesses. Well, so we had to suspend someone last week from their position because their coworkers didn't want to work with them. I mean, the kid's got a big heart. I know him well. I know him, but he doesn't let other people know him because he hides behind an act.
Got it.
And I think a lot of us do that. We all have masks that we wear in different situations. So it's not necessarily fair for me to just call out this one guy because we all do it, right? He's just the one that's currently in my crosshairs.
Eh,
But this is an important thing because this was a tough thing I had to deal with.
does he
So,
watch our podcast? Probably not.
I don't know. I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to mention him by name.
No, I know. I
mean,
was just curious.
But the thing is that it was an educational opportunity for both of us. So this has been something we have been talking to him about for a while, that he's trying to carry on my personality. He really wants to be a great computer scientist. It just might not be in the cards for him because he's not overly academically inclined, but he can be a leader. He's a good kid. He's a rubber meets the road kind of guy. I'm not. I'm like the coordinator. The general says, go over, do this, or the orchestra conductor, but ultimately I need people around me who are going to execute those things, because I'm off to the next idea. Where he's a rubber meets the road guy. He executes stuff and he takes it seriously. He takes pride in his work. There's so much right about this kid, but he was trying to be a leader. He wanted to be a leader. He was trying to lead people who had skills that were stronger than his academically. And this is a student worker position. So what he did is he put on a mask and he became abrasive and, would talk down to them, would yell at them, would invoke my name all over the place because, kind of like, or else, you better do this or else Slipman's gonna, whatever. And it got to the point his coworkers didn't want to work with him. So, we talked to him for a while now and we finally had to suspend him. And, that didn't go over well because he immediately, blamed other people for suspending him. It couldn't have possibly been his problem, his
Right.
fault, and then that led into some other issues with, trust issues and stuff like that. He made some other, unfortunate mistakes. But in hindsight, maybe these were good things. But, so he was at the time suspended from his job for, let's say, a couple of weeks at least. And we were just going to see. Well, he was also relying on being able to work full time for this job over the summer at the university. And the university allows students who work full time to live on campus for free.
Do you still work full time in the summer?
My contract doesn't change over the summer, but faculty full time is, let's call it, weird. During the school year, we do a lot of meetings with students and we're preparing for our classes and lecturing and having, committee work and stuff like that. During the summer, the university is much less active because the students are all gone. But that's the time where faculty are designing new classes, working on new programs, everybody and their brothers coming up with an artificial intelligence degree at their universities and stuff now. So
So you're just not in the office as much, but you still do stuff.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, the job changes a little bit, but the effort is probably pretty similar. But there is less grading. And every now and then we have a class in the summer, but they're usually online anymore because the students are gone and off campus.
Right.
But anyway, so he's relying on his living situation to be attached to his ability to work full time for the job he was currently suspended from. On top of that, he has an expensive car payment that I tried to talk him out of this vehicle when he was considering buying it because, in his mind, when the moons align, he can afford it, but sometimes the moons don't align as well as you think they will.
Right.
And it turned out that every month he was coming up a little bit short. So, we had to make an arrangement and that kind of stuff. But, it's not.
What kind of car is it?
It's one that looks a lot like my car. It's
There we go.
extremely like my car. But,
Okay.
so on one hand, it's flattering that, someone looks up to me. I mean, or I guess it should be flattering. I have that whole autism thing. So I miss some of that stuff, but in any case, it feels good when somebody looks up to you.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, you want to see what gifts God has given that person. And
Right.
you don't want a person, one of my other mentees who is the manager of these students. And one of the reasons that the student was suspended is he was also being disrespectful to the manager. So the students answer to him, he answers to me, is the pathway. Well, this one student was skipping the middle person and coming right to me because, he's got an in with the boss.
Right.
And he was talking down to his actual boss. And the thing is, his actual boss is the one who was actually nice to him. His actual boss is a former youth pastor, really, really nice guy, big heart, really wants to help the students, work with the students, everything that in my mind, I think should be done, but it's just not me. I'm not a touchy-feely person or whatever. It's just he is perfect for that role and he's better than me at that role. So you want all that to be a compatible situation. Well, so this student was suspended. Well, then there was another incident that involved over and above his behaviors, a trust situation. He made an unfortunate mistake and, put a significant strain on our relationship, the relationship between me and the student. Well, so that put me in a tough situation. He needed to learn a lesson, so first of all, understand, yes, he messed up. There should be consequences, but we're poor, miserable sinners. We mess up over and over and over and over again, and Jesus keeps forgiving us when we don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't deserve it. We didn't deserve it in the Old Testament, yet God still gave us a pathway to get to heaven through Jesus, and we don't deserve it, but he still did it. And, so, and I view this kid, I mean, he definitely views me as a father figure. He didn't have that at home. And I'd be lying if I didn't see him as somewhat, yeah, well, I mean, as kind of a son, because I typically, with students, attached to the top students, the best computer scientists. Those are the ones that I tend to align with the most, and kind of take them under my wing, bring them through their degree program, because they're not going to learn as much in the class as they can learn because of their talent. Where this wouldn't have been the kid that I would typically attach to, and it was one of those things where he just attached himself to me like a parasite. This wouldn't go away.
Those little
There's
fish on the bottom of the shark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He wouldn't go away. But there's something to be said for being tough like that, and tenacious and all that stuff. But in any case, so some trust was broken and stuff like that. But now I was in this situation where we're 2 weeks from, well, like not even 2 weeks now, a week and a half from school being out. And he currently is suspended. And if I keep him suspended and I don't give him his summer hours, he now loses his truck. He loses his housing. He loses his income over the summer. He has to go back to a bad situation at home or find an alternative. You just have to start thinking about, does the punishment fit the crime? Because even as I say this, it kind of feels like it comes back to, like prisons and stuff are we really rehabilitating people, or are we just throwing them into a cage for some amount of time and they're going to come out however they come out?
Right.
Where the punishment needs to be such that they have an opportunity to learn the lesson, to improve, not just, hey, let's take you off the streets for 6 years and then we're going to throw you back out there and now you're the same person you used to be, except you're pissed and you've lost 6 years of your life.
And the whole world is different.
Where, this guy, I'm thinking, okay, he still has potential. Nothing has changed in what I see in him. I think maybe what's changed is what he sees in him.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted one thing, but that's not what God had in store for him. We want a lot of things. The guy I met with this morning, our whole conversations earlier on when I first started mentoring him dealt with, he had, he was angry at God, had some things happen in his life that just, he felt like he was being punished by God. And, I tell him, and I didn't learn this until years and years and years later. I think I've told you before that, any bad things that have happened in my life, where I think, oh, this really sucks, I'm being treated unfairly, now I'm set back 6 months, whatever it is, things that we consider to be life-ending events, blah, blah, blah. Years later, I look back at that and say, you know what? If that hadn't happened, this, and this good thing wouldn't have happened. So I typically look back and say, you know what? I'm glad that happened now, even though I went through something that wasn't very comfortable at the time. And something I say pretty often with people I talk to is, when you pray, we want God's will to be done. That's the way we're supposed to pray. Let thy will be done in heaven as it is on earth. So humans are greedy. We want to win the lottery. We want to get this job. We want. Well, God always gives us exactly what we need. And as greedy as humans are, he probably doesn't give us what we want very often. I kind of like a line from a movie. Have you seen Evan Almighty?
Yes.
And this is the second one. Bruce Almighty was the first one. Evan Almighty was the second one, where he makes the ark.
Yep.
Okay.
That is so
So I like the line. Later on in the movie. They're in the diner and the mom is all upset that all this stuff has happened. Morgan Freeman plays God in those movies. So all of a sudden he's waiting tables at this diner, talking to the mom, and he says something. So the mom obviously must have been praying for the family to be closer. So the God figure says, if someone prays for their family to be closer, and obviously this lady knows that, how did he know what my prayer was? Do you think God makes his family closer, or does he give them opportunities to get closer? And that kind of stuck with me. It stuck with me because you think about, you don't fix the problem. Like, last week we were talking about money. Money doesn't fix a problem. Now, money can temporarily solve a short-term problem, but it doesn't fix the problem that got you into that situation. So it's like throwing duct tape on the issue. So I think that God gives us opportunities to either fix our own problems, learn from our mistakes. He sets us on a path that aligns with his plan, but gives us an opportunity to climb out of this hole if we turn to him. Now, I don't want that to be misunderstood. God does not promise us good stuff. He doesn't say, hey, turn to me and you're going to get everything you ever wanted. The prosperity gospel stuff is garbage that's out there. I want to be clear. God does not promise that you will have good things on earth. God promises that if you follow him, you will have good things in heaven after your life here. Now, maybe you get good things here. That would be awesome, but it's not promised to you. So don't hold that against God if you don't all of a sudden have all your problems fixed just because you were praying about it.
Explains
God
so
might
much.
God might have some other plans for you. So in this situation with this kid, I was stuck. Now, he was working at the university, but because he needed some extra help with car payments and stuff, I had him doing some work around my house and was paying him. Well, I was paying him what he needed to help with this car payment in exchange for him working at my house. So I'm in a situation then where, okay, he either has his life basically ruined if the penalty that he deserved was upheld. But if the penalty I deserve was upheld from God, I go to hell. That's what I deserve. I could sit here and say, oh, I'm a good person. Why would God punish me? Go read our paper on that. Being a good person isn't enough. That's not what God asks for us. God asks us to just trust in him. The given information is we're not a good person. No matter how good you think you are, you could be better. This is the idea. We're never going to be good enough. But I was in a situation where I could either ruin this kid's life, and he's already been humbled to the point of exhaustion. Not to mention that, he's all stressed out about this and he has final exams next week and school's already not his strong suit. So, you don't want to throw gasoline in an already lit fire. So I had to find a way to make sure he learned the lesson he needed to learn from the situation. Long term, how do you grow from a big mistake? Yet wasn't so penalizing that so many bad things happened to him that it's unrecoverable. And that was tough for me. Cause this kid was there. We were joking about it yesterday with him. Cause he was like, how can you be so cool about this after what went down? The trust breaking stuff. It's easier to be cool about him mistreating people. That's an attitude adjustment. But, how could you be so cool about this? Well, I wear a lot of different hats in my world.
Yes, you do.
Sometimes I'm wearing department chair hat. Sometimes I'm wearing friend hat. Sometimes I'm wearing father hat. I'm wearing husband hat, whatever it is, and you have to, maybe one of my other God-given gifts is I'm able to switch my personality instantly, which can feel insensitive, can feel unemotional, but my wife can vouch that I was pretty emotional about that situation.
Oh, I could vouch too.
Well, but even like right now, I don't know if the camera picks it up, but right now my eyes are tearing. Like this hurt me.
Right.
But it's because I love this kid. And it was tough to have to make that decision. How can I not ruin his life, yet still be ethical? Because I was at the point I was joking with him yesterday that I could have him out in my yard mowing the grass with scissors and videotaping it just for my own amusement.
Please send that to me. We get like thousands of followers on the YouTube on my videos every day. I can make him go viral really quickly. That would be hilarious.
Exactly. And he was down for it. He's like, if you could put out this fire with that, I'll just mow your yard all summer with scissors. So basically I was in a situation, and remember also I have the 100% Jewish blood. So there is some genetic memory going on here where I'm always looking for a deal, which also was a challenging for me.
Your deal was quite the...
Well, but that was the ethical deal. So I struggled with, I basically was looking at someone who was going to give me unlimited free labor. in exchange for not ruining his life over this. Now, the Jew in me said, hey, unlimited free labor sounds great, but that's called slavery. And we probably don't want to roll that back up. So
we'll go
now,
with minimum wage.
So the way I kind of figured this out, I had already in my end, what was so tough about this is most people around me were advising me to just ruin his life. That's what he deserved. He had to learn a lesson, put myself in his shoes.
I like how you handled it though, because literally car, house, job, like that literally is his entire life.
Yeah. So what I did, as any good Jew might do, Messianic Jew, we don't want to get the wrong impression here. That's a Jew who follows Jesus. It sounds way cooler than Christian. Is I went and looked up, and minimum wage in the state of Wisconsin is $7.
It's still that?
Still that. So now, on top of all this, I also lent him money to go to an apologetics conference in France over the summer. He did it last summer. Obviously, Christian apologetics is close to my heart. So, that wasn't a charity gift. I was happy to give it, but it was not a gift. It was a loan, with you'll work it off type thing. Well, so the deal I offered him is he gets to work off all those loan hours within the next year. He has 12 months, and he can do his hours per month to earn his extra money for his car payment. And the pay rate was the minimum wage in the state of Wisconsin, $7.25 an hour. That's a lot of hours to pay pay back that amount of money. I also wanted him to do
service.
Yeah, I wanted to do 100 hours of community service, which was not my idea. Actually, it was his boss's idea, who's my mentee. I mean, he's everything that I'm not, and I'm really everything he's not. It makes for a good collaboration with the students. The students are getting, I think, a better deal with him and I ham and egging it than just me just belittling. So we had to do 100 hours of Christian community service. Was there something else on there?
There's a bunch of rules he has to follow.
Yeah, he gets his job back at the school so he can live on campus. He can make his money, but he's low man on the totem pole. No, he's not a leader. He needs to learn humility. And I feel decent about this deal. I struggled a lot yesterday with the ethics around this because, yes, I'd love to have free labor, but I also don't. Just as I didn't want him to take advantage of me, which broke the trust, I don't want to take advantage of him. He doesn't deserve that either. So that was what I kind of came up with to not ruin his life, yet put him on the hook for something that's going to take a lot of extra effort on his side to make amends. And I've already forgiven him, but he needs to feel the punishment in order for this to stick.
Right, because obviously there's some behaviors that need to change. So unless he feels it, I mean,
and the thing is, he is capable of those behavior changes. He just needs, I say needed, like he's already fixed it, but he needs to get out of his own way. If he can get out of his own way and start being the best him he can be, instead of trying to model himself after someone else that he might look up to, but he brings things to the table that I don't. He's got so many talents that I would be envious of. This kid is a good kid. He just couldn't see that in himself. So he decided he needed to put a mask on and pretend to be someone else. So, that was my week. Then, did I even tell you about V?
Yeah, didn't someone hit her car and she's in Seattle and she's in Vietnam?
Yeah, so my kid, V, she's a Vietnamese girl, kind of an adoptee. I was her host dad, and now I'm dad, which is quite expensive. Her and I joked about this whole thing where when I was talking to her about the struggle I had with this situation, she was saying, "Oh, how can he do that to you?" And then I'm like, "Well, I seem to remember last year that someone wanted, and keep in mind, she's a software engineer. It's not like she makes minimum wage. She makes a good living. She makes a lot of money for, I think she's 25 or 6 right now. I don't remember when her birthday is, but whatever. Close enough. But I remember her, I think it was Christmas was what this was for. It was either her birthday or Christmas. She decided she needed snowboard boots. She took up snowboarding. She lives out on the West Coast. And apparently the boots she wanted was like $600 boots. But apparently they go on sale sometimes. So, I said, okay. When they go on sale, buy them and tell me what they were and I'll reimburse you. Well, apparently somewhere in there she upgraded. She didn't want the boots anymore. Now she wanted one of these things that mount to the top of your car for like holding. I think I'm guessing like ski stuff and almost
Okay.
like an extra trunk, but it goes on top of like a smaller car. Yeah, I think that cost me more than $600. At least that's what she informed me of yesterday. But she also was in that
And
situation.
is it ruined from the accident?
I don't think that was. Yeah, so just because we're shorter in time here. So she texts me and it's like, Dad, I need help. I just gotten out of my Dungeons and Dragons session, as all nerds do. Dad, I need help. She's over in Vietnam right now. I'm like, well, she's telling me, she's showing me these pictures that her car was hit, and I'm trying to put two and two together. She's not back in the States yet. And so was this your rental car, whatever? I think that's the car that I'm seeing, that the car that she owns. Well, it turns out her car was parked in front of her apartment on the street in Seattle, where she lives, and somebody hit her car, her parked car.
How did she find out?
Well, luckily, apparently there's not a police report, so I don't think the police were called. So luckily, this person was honest, and I don't know how it got back to V, but they had pictures of the accident. They had a picture of the person's insurance card, the stereotype. The driver of the vehicle may have fit into a stereotypical category of people who are known to be bad drivers. But
if you say a female, I'm going to smack you.
Even worse. Oh.
Anyways, okay. I know you will.
So anyways, so she's going through the insurance stuff. It'll all be fine. It's just a headache and stuff. But first time she's had to deal with this. So she was upset and scared and all that stuff. And I'm sure it's going to cost me a steak dinner when she comes in.
And
it's a lot. She only eats steak. She only eats steak. I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's because of you.
And only eats expensive steak. She doesn't want the cheap crap.
That's because of you.
It sucks.
That's your fault.
She does. She has all my mannerisms. Why do people copy me? This isn't a great thing to copy.
No.
So imagine a little Vietnamese girl with my personality and my mannerisms. I'll tell you what. I wouldn't want to be. I mean, she was going to be a tough girlfriend and a tough wife. She's going to run a tight ship. So, in any case, I think we're talking today about forgiveness and repentance. And it goes two ways. When we screw up, God's going to forgive us. We hope the people in our lives forgive us, but it starts with being repentant. I probably wouldn't have come to this conclusion with this kid if I didn't see how much this just destroyed him, and humbled him, which is kind of what I have thought he's needed for a while. Kind of sucked that it was at my expense, but
at the end of the day, though,
I'm a big boy. I can handle it.
Right.
It wasn't a disaster-y type thing. It was more of a disappointing type thing.
I am very, very proud of the way that you handled it, because I feel like human nature, just the way things are these days, I mean, people are more like, you're going to pay for what you did, as opposed to giving that grace and being like, okay, I know I could ruin your life, but I'm not going to. And doing them a favor of like, all right, if you want to get your act together, like, this is what you can do. And not many people in this world do that. So I respect.
And it wasn't just me. I mean, frankly, I couldn't have done it myself.
Right.
I prayed about this, but I also sent the situation out to several different people and just say, hey, what do you think? What would you do? I needed the sounding boards. So, at the end of the day, it was the community of people that I have around me that helped me form an ethical way of not ruining this kid's life while still having a good story where I'm paying him minimum wage.
Right. That part made me laugh. I'm not going to lie.
I know. Well, we are out of time, and I guess I probably have enough ums in here that we're going to be good.
We'll be good.
But yeah, so I mean, I think this was a good topic, but this was, something that's been going through my life. And I mean, it wasn't a full ball, but I cried on the air, I think.
You did.
Yeah.
I got it on camera. So if you ever tell me you don't cry, I got it on camera.
Well, that's the thing. People don't, I get emotional, but I don't know what's happening. So like my eyes tear up often, but I don't feel Like, I don't like start getting choked up very often and stuff like that. It's like more about like it's like a physical thing that's just happening to me.
Do you ever get like a blubbery mess?
No, that's kind of what I'm saying. Oh, wait, it wasn't not for a long time, but this must have been like the second or third day after Tabby's diagnosis.
I was going to say that probably turned you
Yeah.
into a blubbery
Well,
mess.
but I think guys try to be tough guys and stuff like that. Tabby's my everything.
Right.
I always joke, yeah, she's a pain in the ass, but I think you need to be a pain in the ass to manage me.
Absolutely.
She's my everything. And so, I had this thing on my plate where, they gave her 2 years to live. And I'm like, my everything's gone in 2 years. I need a miracle. Well, see, we're doing the crying thing again. Look at this. No. So, but I remember we were sitting there, we were talking, and then, I got up and just out of nowhere, it's just like, it all just came out. And I was like wondering what the hell's going on? Like, it wasn't controllable for me. So,
And not an emotion you're used to having either.
well, no, especially not when it was more, I mean, the eye tearing thing happens, it's like, I do have emotions underneath the tough exterior, but just losing it isn't. She was much stronger about the thing than I was. She was like, hey, I'm ready for heaven. As long as I don't have to suffer.
Right.
She kind of wants to just go to bed sometime and like, well, I just happen to wake up in heaven. Everything's
Right.
great, but I figure like, okay, well, I mean, somebody's got to do my pills. Somebody's got to take care of me. I run on back scratchies, so that's my fuel. Yeah. So in any case, that was my week. So now we're in recovery mode.
And now everybody got to see Mike blubber like a baby.
This wasn't blubbering.
It was close,
It was close.
but it was sweet. It shows your
Was it?
sensitive side.
What if I did it on purpose?
Then you're a very good actor.
All right. Well, so until next week, we are recording next week. I think we're going to try. I'm gone for 2 weeks at the beginning of May, but I think we're going to maybe try to record ahead a little bit and maybe only miss 1 week or something. We'll see how it goes. Things are pretty busy at the end of the year, but at the very least, I think we'll record next week.
Yeah.
So until next week, we will see you then. I am Mike Lippman, the Quantum Disciple. This is Megan, my skeptic and partner in crime. What do you say?
What?
Toodaloo? What do you say?
Toodaloo. You always say I say toodaloo. I never say toodaloo. I say thank you, everybody, for watching. Hit that like and subscribe.
All right, bye-bye.
Toodaloo.
Thank you for watching. Hit that like and subscribe.
See you next time.